Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services in Eastland, Texas. Tune in every week as we share important information to help you and your family live life on purpose. Insurance, investments, legacy and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
Good morning and welcome into Life Planning 101. My name is Angela Robinson with Kennedy Financial Services. God bless you in this new year, January 2022. And here we are, starting off the new year, and we're going to talk about returning to a simple life. Doesn't the sound of that just ring in your ears and reminds me of, kids? They're always keeping things simple. Our kids are no exception. We were headed back from our Christmas trip and we got out of there super duper early in the morning. I think Colorado time, it was still 4 a.m. and the kids are awake and they're talking about being hungry. And they said, well, when we hit this next town, we can either go through the drive-through or you can have a bar, meaning, a Lara bar, the little protein bars that they like to eat. And our oldest looks over at our youngest and he says, Brian, what they're saying is we could go through a place like McDonald's, or we could go to one of those places that mom and dad can have a drink and we can sit down and get our food. So, leave it to kids to keep things simple. A bar's a bar, right? It has to be a protein bar. It has to be explained, right? But the reality is, as life goes on, it becomes more complicated. And I think all of us can relate to that in one way or another. You probably remember, those days when you were a kid and you reminisce about it. You had one toy box, your mom told you to clean up your room and everything went into one place, your toy box. And what a huge relief when everything was done, right? You felt really good about yourself. And when was the last time that you felt like that? I mean, you really think about it and you're able to look around and you feel really good about it. Nowadays, it's called cleaning out your garage, cleaning out your shop, cleaning out your closet. And it's like an all day thing or all weekend thing. And that was just only one part of your life. It wasn't just one toy box, all one and done, right? Well, what a huge relief it would be if you could take your entire life as it is today, your success, all the success that you've had, all the complexity that success has created, and bundle it up with all the documents and all the stress that go with it into one box at the end of the day. That'd be pretty awesome, right? If we knew every day we were able to leave it as we found it, so to speak. And the truth is, we just don't get to do that because the more life goes on, the more successful we are. And there's no harm, no foul in that. In fact, isn't that what we build for? Isn't that what we try to do? Whether you have found your success one paycheck at a time, you work for the same company for 40 years and every single paycheck you've put back a little money and you're getting closer and closer to that big day in retirement and you've put the work into your house and maybe you've purchased your dream home or you're working on a remodel, whatever that is. It's just as messy as the business owner that has 50 employees and trying to keep up with them and their own stuff, or the rancher that has cattle and equipment and everything else. It doesn't matter. Success is messy. We pray for it. We want it. We ask for it. We get it, right? And it doesn't matter how it comes. It's complicated. The reality is, and we did a, article a few weeks ago and it was called, Have You Outgrown Your Advisor? And there's a good reason for that because the more success that you have, the more complicated that it gets. And really the more thieves that show up at your front door. And what do I mean by that? Well, everybody's after your success, right? Whether it be a lawsuit, whether it be taxes, whether it be inflation, which we haven't seen in 30 plus years, and all of a sudden it just comes roaring back into our lives. The salesman, your own greed. Now I'm hitting home. Ooh, wait, that was too painful, too early in the game, right? But no, it's not. Because the more success that we have, the more we want to keep it. It reminds me of a good story. A lady was told by her husband made her promise, I want you to bury me with all of my money. And he was kind of a Scrooge about his money nonetheless. And she made the promise to him. And she says, when you die, of course, I'll bury you with it. I'm your wife. I'll do what you asked me to do. And so when he did die, he was stretched out in his casket, and the wife was sitting there and, in the funeral home next to her best friend. And when they finished the ceremony, and just before the undertaker started to take away and close the casket, the wife said, "Wait a minute." And she had a shoebox with her. And she came over and she put that shoebox in the casket. And then the undertakers locked the casket. And the wife said, "Wait a minute." And she had another shoebox with her. And she put the other shoebox in there. And the friend said, "I sure hope you weren't crazy enough to actually do what he asked you to do with that stingy old man." And she said, "Yeah, I promised. I am a good Christian and I cannot lie. I promised him that I was going to put that money in that casket with him, and I'm going to." And she said, "You mean to tell me you put every cent of the money in the casket with him?" She said, "I sure did. I got it all together. I put it into my checking account and I wrote him in one nice big fat check." So everybody's after that money. The greed, the fear. We have a fear of losing it. We have a fear of something going wrong. We have a fear of, we just live in a crazy world. It's easy for the fear. It reminds me of that song, about the devil being a liar. Oh, yeah, he's getting everybody from every corner right now. Fear is benevolent. And ignorance, right? So success is complex. It didn't happen overnight. You didn't get there overnight. You don't have a PhD in something you have obtained. You have a PhD in how to get it, but how do you keep it? How do you manage it? How do you make it better? I always think about, everybody goes through their life and they create this 10,000 hours to mastery. And the one thing that they don't create along the way is how to keep the mastery intact, all the fruits of their labor. The labor is the mastery. The fruits are another mastery altogether. Divorces. Yeah, and you may be thinking, I would never get a divorce from my spouse, or, they would never divorce me. And that may be certainly true, but I'm not even just talking about your divorces. What about your kids? What about the divorces that they have? What about when the money goes down to the second generation, third generation? And then, quote unquote, family. We talk about family support issues, and it's a real deal, right? Many of you are probably in that sandwich generation and know what I'm talking about. But even if you're not in that sandwich generation, there's probably that one or two family members that you do worry about something happening and you have to pick up the pieces, or, those divorces or the drugs or the, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It is a thief of your money. It is a thief of your success. All of those things are. We were working through a plan one time with a couple, and there was a lot going on there. They're very successful people. And just like, the story says that we're talking about today, their success was built one paycheck at a time, one piece at a time, one day at a time. It didn't happen overnight, yet they woke up and they don't know where anything is, and they're worried, and it's so complex they don't even know how to straighten it out. And they said, it'd be easier if we were just broke than have this money. Isn't that true? Success sometimes creates a sense of slavery to keeping it. The reality is, it shouldn't be that way. We did a show, I can't remember when this was, but we talked about, are you living for your money, or is your money living for you? And I feel like a lot of people that build success get in a place that they don't even know how to get out of, because they do feel that sense of slavery to money. Maybe that's why they say money is the root of all evil, right? Or one of the reasons why, at least. But it shouldn't be that way, right? When we come back on Life Planning 101 today, we're going to be talking about returning to a simple life, because it is possible. No matter how much success you've had, no matter how much complication you have, it is possible to return to a simple life and let that stress be thrown out the window along with 2021 when we come back. Keeping it simple, right here on Life Planning 101 today. We are talking about complexity coming from all the success that you've built over the years, and how do you get it back to being simple? Well, it's about the same as trying to make a woman happy, right? I can speak from firsthand experience. A man only needs to be a friend, a companion, romantic, like a brother, like a father, like a master, a chef, an electrician, a carpenter, a plumber, a mechanic, a decorator, a cook, a dishwasher, so on, yeah, all those things, right? Very, very simple. No, the reality is being a man to a wife, and what my husband always says is happy wife, happy life, is not simple. I will be the first to admit it, right? But neither is success. And that's what we're here to talk about. I can't give you woman advice. There is no doubt about that, because I'm not your typical woman. Sorry. But let's talk about your blood, your sweat, your tears, all those things that you put years and years into that were supposed to give you freedom, and they're not. Well, Winston Churchill stated this: out of intense complexities, intense simplicities emerge. And he couldn't be more right when it talks about your success, because maintenance of your success is increasingly complex. There's no doubt about it. The more success you have, the more money you have, the more complex it is, because the more thieves that are after it in different ways that are after it. I mean, we went through the list, right? Lawsuits, taxes, inflation, salesmen, greed, fear, ignorance, divorces, families, all of those things. And I'm sure there's several more that I even add on the list that are thieves of your money. So it's time to break it down. Let's build that toy box to put it into, that one single toy box, like we talked about when you were a kid. And you could put everything in. At the end of the day, you knew exactly where it was, and you got to start the day fresh the next day. But how do you do it? How do you get there? I'm going to ask you something. I want to know, and I'm not talking about when was the last time someone built a financial plan for you, or when was the last time that you went over your tax planning, or when was the last time you reviewed your legal documents, or you had all your investments looked at, or you had all your banking and your liabilities looked at. I'm not asking about any single one of those things. I'm going to ask you this. When was the last time that you had an audit of your life plan? I'm betting you don't even know what that means, let alone how to do it. I mean, you can make your assumptions, right? Because you know our show, Life Planning 101, and if you know our show and you know what we do all things money, you can make your assumptions about what that means. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. If you start with taking your stuff to a banker and you say, I want you to analyze my situation, tell me how I can do it better. Or you go to a financial advisor and you say, I want you to look at my future and tell me if I'm going to have the cash flow that I need. Or you go to your tax professional and say, I'd like to pay less in taxes, help me get there. You go to your investment professional and you say, I'd like to make 12% a year, show me how to do it. None of those things audit your life plan. Because see, just like we talked about earlier in the show, success makes you a slave to keeping it. All those questions keep you a slave to keeping your success. You're peeling off one piece at a time, and you're not even peeling back the onion. You're just cutting it into chunks. And then those chunks may or may not be able to go back together like they should. Because an audit of your life plan begins with this. By the way, this is the hard part. This is the part that I can't do for anybody. No professional can do for anybody. You have to answer it. And it's this question. What does it mean to you to live life on purpose? I can ask that 1,000 different ways. If you're sitting here the last day of your life, you're looking back over your life, what do you not want to regret, right? We heard that last week. Or, if you ended up with an extra 10 years out of your life, what would you do to fill that time? Think of some things. Why aren't you doing them now? Or who's most important to you in your life? What is most important to you in your life? Where do you want to be spending your time? How do you want to be spending your time? If this were your last day on earth, where would you be? What would you be doing? Who would you be doing it with, right? What does it mean to live life on purpose to you? Because in an audit, your job is to answer that question. Only then can you start to analyze how well or not so well, all that complexity, all that chaos, all that stress that your success has created is supporting you or not supporting you in that endeavor. In reality, if you don't focus around that question, I could look at somebody's investments all day long and say, yeah, that looks decent, or that doesn't look so decent. You might want to maneuver this. You might want to, this might be some overlap. This might be some gap. But in reality, if I don't pair that up with really what their purpose is or what their goals are. In fact, I was asked that question recently. We had an accountant come to us and they wanted us to fill out this allocation page for this client. All they gave us was, this is their age and their lifestyle. That's it. I'm like, well, heck. We could cookie cut that like a robo-advisor, but that won't work because you see there's all these other factors. What about those emotions? What about that greed and that fear factor? What about managing those emotions? What about managing the family? What about managing the what ifs? How do we know the what ifs if we don't know what's most important? What is your family dynamics? What are your future and goals? What are those things? And how does that pair up to that? And the investments, and by the way, if we're just looking at the investments and we don't have the insurance to protect the investments or the right legal structure to protect the investments, then what good are the investments? Why are we spending so much time there when we should be focusing on something else? Because if what your goal is to protect what you've worked so hard to build, yet you skip that step or you separate out that step and the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, how does that work? No wonder everybody lies awake at night and they're so overwhelmed by all their complex success, right? We try to break it apart like a puzzle. And we don't ever try to put back together the puzzle pieces. We don't even have the front of the box that shows us what that should look like. We don't even know. So everybody's just guessing and they're trying to build their part. They don't know who has what else or if they have what else. And if they have one of their pieces that's supposed to go over there, nobody knows that. You can't build that puzzle together like that. There's no teamwork. It doesn't work that way. So when you go to analyzing how well or not so well your success is actually working for you, you got to see the big picture. And then you got to see all the pieces. Somebody has to see all the pieces. And I bet you say, well, I know where all the pieces are. Yeah, sure you do. Remember that 10,000 hours to mastery? I'm sure your 10,000 hours to mastery is in building that success, right? What about maintaining it? What about it making it work for you? Do you have a mastery in that? And if you don't, my bet is you need to find somebody that can help you do that. And oh, by the way, that is what we do at Kennedy Financial Services. You're not going to want to miss when we come back. We're going to be talking more about returning to a simple life in 2022. Welcome back to Life Planning 101. My name is Angela Robinson with Kennedy Financial Services here in the great town of Eastland, Texas, and we're talking about going back to a simple life, or, the KISS method. I don't think I have to explain the acronym to anyone, but that's the reality of it. Over the years, just creating more and more complexity for ourselves. I mean, our country is kind of notorious for it. It's no wonder each of us individually are notorious for us because we just can't help ourselves, right? Create more complexity out of the success we have and more complexity out of the success we have. And one day we throw up our hands and say, why do I want any of this? Get rid of it, right? So our goal as a life planning firm is to turn that completely around. In fact, it's why we built what we call the life planning process, because it shouldn't be that way. Your success was built for a reason. If it is not serving that reason and it is causing you to lie awake worrying at night, something is wrong. For example, your health can't be a priority in life if you are lying awake worrying at night. Or on the flip side, and we actually saw this last year, I had a couple come to us and we're starting to look into things and they're paying so much insurance premium. It was crazy how much insurance premium they were paying. And we got to the bottom of it and really they didn't have hardly anything covered the way they needed to have it covered in the respect of being sued, the potential of being sued and something happening. It was really, really bad. So you might be sleeping at night and you should be losing sleep at night. So right there, that was it, right? I mean, think about this right there. That's where you throw up your hands and you say, well, heck, even if I think I'm doing it all right, it's too overwhelming. It's too much. And I agree 1000% that success is complex. And I am not going to deny that at any time, but it's even more reason that you need to make it simple. It's an overwhelming amount of things that are built around success, the responsibilities that are built around success, trying to keep it, trying to aid it, trying to make it for good, right? And so why does that happen? Why do you get to throw up your hands and what's happened? Well, first of all, call it the do-it-yourself method, right? We talked about a couple weeks ago outgrowing your advisor, and a lot of times that advisor has been you throughout the years because things started out so simple. And so you keep thinking you'll bring yourself up to date and you keep doing it yourself. Yet you're still going to those 5 different professionals, the bankers, the insurance agents, the investment brokers, the legal professionals, the tax professionals for each piece of it. And you are manning that yourself. You are trying to make that work yourself. Or what about that lack of clarity? What about missing information? You don't even know what you don't know. You don't even know that you don't know that you don't know that you don't know. And that is what ends up hurting you. What about the wrong professionals? No professional team. When was the last time you had all of your key professionals have a conference call together or sit in the same room on your behalf with someone in that room knowing your entire situation, which, by the way, is that professional team leader, someone that knows not only the facts, the analysis, but also knows your heart, knows your current situation, your future, your goals, your family dynamics, everything, right? Maybe you're feeling like you're losing control by giving up some of that do-it-yourself. You can't let someone else do it. You've always done it yourself. Humility takes more than an inch. And then last but not least, and I say this is probably the majority of people, is just simple procrastination. We wait until something is too painful to deal with it. We wait until something is too big to deal with it. We wait till we're on the brink of something to deal with it. Or we wait till we have the check in hand to deal with it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, this is why we built the life planning process. Our goal with that is simply to turn all that complexity into simplicity. We focus on you, your unique situation, your future and goals, your family dynamics, your feelings about risk versus reward. And we have what we call 8 life planning issues. And we go through those 8 life planning issues, whether or not they are incumbent on someone at any point in time. We do it proactively to not end up doing it reactively. And we do it to avoid gaps and overlaps before they become a true gap or overlap that causes an issue. It's the toy box. We put it back into one toy box. We know where everything is. We know what should be there and shouldn't be there. And maybe everything's satisfactory. Wouldn't it be great to know that too? I know, ViaScan, we talked about that for years. And by the way, if you haven't gone to get your exam at ViaScan, get your body scan, I highly recommend talking to Dr. Duncan and his crew in Las Colinas, Texas. Amazing. But I had a friend that actually went through there, and his whole family had health issues, heart issues. And he got done. He said, I was 100% clear, and I should have done that 3 years ago, because I can't tell you how many nights I've stayed awake worried about my health. So are you worried? Are you staying awake? Maybe you shouldn't even be staying awake, and you don't even know what you don't know. The important thing is that you're able to focus on what's important to you. Focus on what you were built on this planet for, what your purpose is, your God-given purposes in this life. You get to be in the driver's seat with your success. Your success isn't in the driver's seat. It's not controlling the wheel. That's what you need to be able to say. And it's not a dream. It's a choice. Yeah, it's some hard work to lay that groundwork. It takes some time to lay that groundwork. But if you don't, you sit there worrying. And by the way, that sit there worrying, do nothing, reactive mentality, procrastination, do it yourself, lack of clarity, misinformation, wrong professionals, no professional team, lack of communication, feeling of losing control, and whatever the reason is, can cause you to live by default. Because things will happen to you rather than happening for you in the way that you meant them to happen because you were proactive in doing it. And the good news is about all of that is that you don't have to do the job alone. You've got someone that can be in your corner. That's us. That's what we do. And I'm sure there's someone else out there like us that does what we do. I haven't found them yet, but I'm sure they are. The point is you need to find somebody that's going to be in your corner and help you with all this and make sure that they help you turn that complexity into simplicity so you can live life on purpose. Life's too short to be wasting on letting things control you. Don't let it, not for another minute.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services. If you have questions, you can email them to lifeplanning@kennedy-financial.com. Be sure to tune in next week for more Life Planning 101. The opinions expressed herein are those of the firm and are subject to change without notice. The opinions referenced are as of the date of publication and are subject to change due to changes in the market or economic conditions and may not necessarily come to pass. Any opinions, projections, or forward-looking statements expressed herein are solely those of the author may differ from the views or opinions expressed by other areas of the firm and are only for general informational purposes as of the date indicated. Securities offered through Calton & Associates Incorporated, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Smart Money Group LLC. Kennedy Financial Services and Smart Money Group LLC are separate entities and are not owned or controlled by Calton & Associates Incorporated.